In the high-stakes world of the northern region, the Yanagi name was synonymous with an empire. But when the patriarch died, the family's brilliance began to flicker. Mr. Kawagi arrived like a soothing balm, a man who seemed to want nothing but to care for a grieving widow. In reality, he was a parasite of the highest order. He brought Sarah into the house, a miserable orphan who was actually a weapon sharpened by his biological lover, May. Together, they executed a silent coup. They didn't just want the money, they wanted to break the Yanagi spirit. They turned Ichiro, a titan of the stock market, into a shut-in by drugging his legs. They turned Xiao, a prodigy, into a ghost by shattering her mind. And finally, they turned Yanagi into a corpse. But when Yanagi's soul screamed in the void, something answered. He was thrust back into time, but the re-entry was violent. It left his mind perpetually open. He became a living transmitter. Because his family shared his blood and his trauma, their brains became attuned to his frequency. To the world, Yanagi is a quiet survivor. To his family, he is a 24/7 broadcast of the future, the truth, and a love so fierce it acts as their North Star. The evening air in the villa was heavy, the scent of expensive incense failing to mask the lingering tension of the police raid. Mom sat in her high-backed chair, her face a mask of iron, while Ichiro gripped the armrests of his wheelchair so hard the leather groaned. Yanagi sat across from them, clutching a cup of tea. His mind was a chaotic storm. I need to tell them about the poison in the tea, he thought frantically. And the way Kawagi used to look at Mom when she wasn't looking. Like she was a piece of meat he was waiting to rot. God, I'm so sorry I wasn't strong enough to stop it the first time. Stop, Mom whispered, her eyes snapping to his. Yanagi, stop apologizing. Yanagi froze, the tea splashing over the rim of his cup. I didn't say anything out loud. We know, Ichiro said, his voice a low rumble of disbelief and awe. But I can hear you. It's not like a sound in the room, it's like a memory being formed in my own head, but the voice is yours. When you hugged me today, I heard you scream I missed you so loud I thought my ears would bleed. Xiao, sitting on the floor, looked up. Her eyes, once vacant, were now burning with focus. I hear the colors, she said, her first words in years. Your thoughts have colors, brother. When you're angry, the air smells like ozone. Yanagi's heart hammered against his ribs. You can really hear me? Every dark thought? Every secret about the past life? The fact that I watched you all suffer for years as a ghost? Yes, Mom said, walking over to kneel before him. She took his shaking hands in hers. And thank God for it. You are the eye of the storm, Yanagi. Don't you dare hide. If your mind is a weapon, then we will be the army that swings it. The family doctor, a man named Dr. Vance who had been on Kawagi's payroll for years, was summoned under the guise of an emergency. He walked in, smelling of expensive cologne and arrogance. Ah, Ichiro, feeling some phantom pains again? Vance asked, reaching for a syringe. Let's get you your vitamins. Don't let him touch you. Yanagi's mental voice roared through the room, making Ichiro flinch. That syringe isn't a vitamin. It's a concentrated dose of vecuronium. It keeps your muscles in a state of constant, low-level paralysis. He's been keeping you in that chair to keep you out of the boardroom. Ichiro's hand shot out, catching the doctor's wrist in a grip of pure steel. No more vitamins, doctor, Ichiro hissed. I don't know what you mean, Vance stammered. The false floor under the medical cabinet, Yanagi thought, his eyes boring into the doctor. That's where he keeps the real records. The ones that show Ichiro's nerves are perfectly healthy. Mom didn't wait. She signaled the security team. They tore up the floorboards, revealing a ledger of every chemical Vance had pumped into Ichiro. By that night, a team of honest specialists had started the detoxification. As the drugs left his system, the paralysis vanished. 2 days later, the household held its breath. Yanagi stood at the end of the hallway. Walk to me, Ichiro. Walk to the brother who failed you before. Prove them wrong. Ichiro groaned, his face slick with sweat as he stood. With one trembling step, then another, he crossed the floor. When he reached Yanagi, he didn't just hug him, he lifted him off the ground, a titan reborn. May sat in her penthouse, looking at the city lights. She was already picking out the jewelry she would buy once the widow was dead. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from Kawagi's burner, "Everything is ready. Come to the villa to claim your place." She arrived an hour later, dressed in a red silk dress, expecting a victory celebration. Instead, the villa was dark, save for a single light in the foyer. Mom stood there, flanked by her 3 children. Ichiro was standing tall, leaning only slightly on a cane. "Where is my husband?" May demanded, trying to keep her composure. "She's wearing the necklace," Yanagi's thought hissed through the air, dripping with venom. "The one stolen from Mom's vault last year. The one that has the family crest hidden in the clasp. She thinks we forgot." Mom's gaze dropped to May's throat. "That's a lovely piece of jewelry, May. My husband gave that to me on our 10th anniversary. I reported it stolen a year ago." May reached for her neck, stammering. I bought this at an auction." The laptop in her bag, Yanagi projected, his voice cold and precise. "It has the flight logs. She and Kawagi have been funneling the Northern Region's funds to a Cayman account for 3 years. The transfer key is Sarah 123. Ichiro stepped forward, snatching May's bag before she could react. He opened the laptop, typed in the key Yanagi provided, and watched the screen populate with years of theft. "It's over," Ichiro said, showing her the screen. "The police are in the kitchen with your husband. He's already started talking to save his own skin." May fell to her knees, the red silk staining as she collapsed on the cold marble. As the officers moved in to take her, Yanagi stepped forward, his eyes reflecting the moonlight. "In my last life, you laughed while we cried," he thought, the message hitting her like a physical blow. "In this life, you won't even have a voice to scream with." Shao walked past the sobbing woman, paused, and looked at Yanagi. Her thoughts were no longer faint, they were a clear, ringing chime. "The house is clean now, brother. Let's start over." The courthouse was a circus of flashing cameras and hushed whispers. Sarah, stripped of her designer clothes and dressed in a drab orange jumpsuit, tried to play the role of the victim one last time. She sat at the defense table, weeping silently, her lawyers claiming she was a brainwashed child forced into a life of crime by her father. The jury looked sympathetic. The judge seemed hesitant. But then, Yanagi walked in. As he sat in the front row, his eyes locked onto Sarah. She looked at him and smirked, a tiny, microscopic twist of the lips that only he could see. She thought she was safe. She thought the attempted murder of a wealthy boy wouldn't stick. She thinks this is her only crime. Yanagi's thought vibrated through the minds of his mother, Ichiro, and Shao like a tuning fork. She thinks we don't know about the others. The ones who came before us. Mom stood up abruptly, her hand gripping her pearls. The voice in her head was guiding her gaze toward the evidence photos of the dumping ground where Kawagi had supposedly found Sarah. "Look at the background of photo 42, Yanagi projected, his mind sharpening into a needle. "There's an old well behind that dumping site. In my past life, I heard Kawagi bragging to May. He said Sarah was a natural. Before they moved to the north, they were in the south. 2 other families lost their children to accidents while Kawagi was their gardener. They aren't in the dump. They're in the well." Ichiro leaned over to the family's lead prosecutor, whispering urgently. The prosecutor's eyes went wide. He requested an emergency recess to investigate newly surfaced leads regarding cold cases in the southern province. Sarah's mask finally cracked. Her face went pale, her eyes darting toward Yanagi. She couldn't hear him, but she could feel the atmosphere in the room shift against her. They were just kids, Sarah. Yanagi's thought grew cold and heavy, a psychic weight pressing down on the courtroom. A 7-year-old boy in Yunnan. A teenage girl in Guangzhou. You pushed them, didn't you? Just like you pushed Shao. Just like you pushed me. Within 48 hours, the forensic teams in the south confirmed the horror. The remains of 3 missing children were found exactly where Yanagi's intuition had led them. The trial was no longer about a family dispute. It was about a serial predator. On the final day of the trial, as the judge prepared to read the life sentence, Sarah lost her mind. She stood up, screaming at the Yanagi family, "How? How do you know things you weren't there to see?" Yanagi stood up slowly. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. Because dead men tell tales, he thought, his voice echoing in the hearts of his mother and siblings. And this time, we're all listening. As Sarah was dragged out, clawing at the floor, Xiao leaned into Yanagi's side. She'll never see the sky again, Zhao's thought drifted to him, clear and peaceful. The ghosts can finally rest.